I saw a report come out from a market research company that showed that 50% of all adults specifically regretted one financial decision. And do you guys know what that is? It's kind of a broad category, which I'm going to break down for you guys. That category is debt. 50% of people regretted taking out at least one source of debt. And I'm going to break this down for you guys as to why they regret it and why you guys should avoid some of these mistakes with debt. Debt can be good. I've talked about that a lot. Debt can make you really rich. Debt can make you really wealthy. But most people don't know how to use it properly. So we're going to talk about that here. And actually, what's interesting is that 40% of people regret debt from the past year, from the past year, which is quite amazing. And so, what are the biggest sources of regret, specifically relating to debt? Take a guess. So I have some of the top choices here. Student loans. I made a whole video on that about why those can be bad. I think that most of the time student loans are bad now, but in certain cases they're still good. STEM, I made a whole video on that. Let's not talk about that. I've talked about that way too much. Student loans. And then we got credit cards. You guys know how I feel about credit cards if you watched this channel for a long time. If you don't have the money, you don't have the money. That's my rule. If you don't have the money to pay for something, you don't have the money to pay for something. If you don't have $50 to go get that nice shirt, you don't have the $50 to go get that nice shirt. That's how people should be living. They shouldn't think that because they have a $1,000 credit limit that they have $1,000 to spend that month. No. If you have a $1,000 credit limit, that should just be correlated to what's in your checking account too. And it's credit cards, you know, there's very, very few cases where I think that you should use those for emergencies, right? Maybe if you need to pay medical bills or drugs or something like that, but credit cards, unless you have that amount of money in your checking account, don't even use them. Don't even use them. If you have $500 in your checking account and you're using $600 in credit cards, don't. You got to stop. You got to cut up your credit card, pay that back over time, and just focus on either spending your money in a better way or increasing your income or saving your money. So credit cards, they're a big regret. I know that I think the average person has what, $4,000 to $6,000 in credit card debt? Something around there. Anyways, we're going to move on here to, this is probably the number one regret actually. This is the number one debt regret here. Right? Oh, I was just about to make a star there and then I went in a completely different direction. That's an hourglass. Okay, we're going to keep it. Hourglass. Hourglass. So auto loans. Big source of regret right there. And so again, if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. If you don't have $30,000 to pay for a nice SUV, you don't have $30,000 to pay for a nice SUV. You got to go get a shit box. You got to go get that $1,000 to $2,000 beat up PT Cruiser. That'll take you from work and back. No problem. I mean, unless it has a few 100,000 miles on it. But again, if you just need a car and you don't have a lot of money, then you just got to get a crappy car. That's what it should be. Who cares if you're not going to impress the girls or the guys? So what if you don't have that nice Land Rover or whatever kind of nice car there is out there these days? Who cares? You're going to work and back. If someone will judge you based on the kind of car you drive, then they probably won't be your friends or your partner. They're probably not worth it, not worth your time. So auto loans, they're a big regret from people that take out debt, auto loans. I think we got a couple more here. This one is, this one's the worst. This one's the worst. Payday loans. This one, people don't necessarily regret this the most, but this is the easiest way for people to get trapped. Payday loans. So again, if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. Never ever, I don't think that there's any scenario where I would say take out a payday loan. I don't, even medical stuff. Even if you need to pay for drugs, unless it's absolutely life and death to take out payday loan to pay for drugs, I wouldn't ever take out a payday loan. Because what happens is that the interest rates on these are like, what, 33%? And the actual adjusted interest rate for the average person is actually like 200 or 300%, which is quite amazing, and people don't think about that. So on a typical payday loan, if you were to take out $500, the average person will end up paying back about $1,000 to $1,500 on a payday loan, because they can't pay it back on time and they get trapped and trapped. And a lot of the times, this is how the debt cycle starts. That's how the debt cycle starts. You take out one payday loan, and then you can't pay it back right away, so that $500 payback goes to $600. Then you can't pay that back. Then it's $700, $800, $900, and it just adds up. Payday loans, massive, massive regret for people. Never take those out, ever, ever. So then we get a mortgage. I think that this isn't what a lot of people regret. What people regret is when they take out too big of a mortgage, when they max out the amount of money that they borrow to get a bigger house. So the example I like to use is that, I know now it's like you have to have a 20% down payment, but in some areas it's 5%. So when you go onto a mortgage calculator and say what's the maximum mortgage I can afford? If it's $500,000, don't get a mortgage that's $500,000. That's your maximum limit. That's the point where it's like uncomfortable for you to be at. If your max is $500,000, look at homes that are $400,000 or less for a mortgage. That's how it should be. So taking out too much debt on your house is something that people regret. So make sure that you just don't over leverage yourself on a mortgage. Now we're going to move on here to SB loans. Small business loans. This is necessary in some cases. I mean, these can be good. In fact, I think out of everything on here, I mean, I guess small business loans, like student loans can be good, small business loans can be good, mortgage can be good. Mortgage is really good if you're building rental properties, if you're buying rental properties, and that's amazing, but I'm talking about just for your house. So small business loans can be good. But I do think that in order for you to have a successful small business, most of the times you should probably cash flow it. Or get investors. Don't take out loans. Have someone buy out equity in your company and use that instead of a loan. That's usually better in the long run if you're going to be a successful business person. But saying that, I mean, if you just want to open up a corner store or a restaurant maybe even, yeah, small business loans, they can work out in some cases if you know what you're doing. From what I've seen though, most restaurants and people that take out, like I worked in this field for a long time. Well, not a long time, like 5 years. And I worked for this guy. He owned a bunch of restaurants. He did real estate deals for hundreds of restaurants. And I would get to know everyone that opened a store. I would get to see them come in. I'd get to see their financials. I'd have to go through them all, actually. That's part of my job. And then what I noticed is that after a few years, people didn't really know what they're doing. And most of the time, they go out of business if they take out a small business loan. And so I remember one time these bank guys came in here from TD Bank, and they were talking about how out of all the loans that they give out, the ones that they hate the most, that they hate giving out because they end up defaulting a lot of the times, are small business loans, specifically to restaurants too. Restaurants and retail stores, etc. Because they go out of business. People usually don't know what they're doing when they take out one of these. So if you're going to take out a small business loan, make sure you know what you're doing and make sure it's a small amount. That's what I'll say. We're going to move on here to, I think the last one I want to cover actually, is just a personal loan. So just a personal one. Personal loan. So this could be anything from a line of credit. This could be something you'd get from your mom and dad to pay back. There's lots of things. But usually personal loans are not for any sort of standard purpose. They're not so that you can pay your medical bills. They're not so that you can go to see a dentist. They're for going on vacation. And the reason why this actually doesn't rank as high as some of the other ones is because people feel like they get a good experience if they take out a loan to go on vacation. And they're like, I had so much fun. I got to go on vacation using my credit cards and it was so great. It was so magical. I could never afford this. And there might be a reason why you can't afford it, because you're not good with money. And so these end up going bad a lot of the time. A lot of the times. So personal loans, people regret those a lot, but saying that If you're using it for a good experience, I mean, and maybe you're 70 years old and you don't know, like there's certain cases where it's okay. But usually people end up regretting personal loans just so to buy that purse, to buy that PlayStation, to buy that video game, to buy that car, to go on vacation. Usually people will regret it, but in some cases it can be good for you. So I think that's going to wrap this video up here. So yeah, half of people regret taking out debt. Half. Meaning that usually 50% of the population just aren't good with debt in the first place. So immediately, if you're good with debt and you're good with taking out debt for investments and taking out debt for real estate, you're immediately ahead of half of all people if you know what you're doing with debt and how to pay it back. Cool, eh? That's what I took from this too, is that immediately I'm ahead of like 50% of people because I'm not a complete dumbass with this stuff. So anyways, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. That's going to wrap it up. What do you guys think about debt? What's your opinion on it? I know that there's tons of sources of good debt. I mean, I always talk about real estate debt is amazing because you can actually write it off for tax purposes a lot of the time. So there's lots of good ones. You can take out debt to invest in stocks. There's lots of good ways to take out debt. But these are the sources that people regret the most. So anyways, did I miss anything here? What kind of debt have you seen people take out that's like stupid? Because these are the only ones that I could think of actually that were in, most of these were in an article that I read. I added a couple here. So anyways, I think I'd like to, wrap this video up. Thank you very much for watching. You're all very beautiful people. I'll see you guys in the next video.